Hi, I'm Barry Ward. I'm the Executive Director of Trees for Houston, and now we are talking about how to do light pruning on small or young trees. So pruning should be a regular part of maintaining your trees. It should be done yearly. When it is done yearly, when it is done as part of a regular maintenance plan, the health of your tree will be far greater, and it will remediate a lot of costs later on, both in terms of dollars and in terms of health problems for your tree and structural problems in terms of conflict with your house and your driveway and your sidewalk and those sorts of things in terms of the built environment. So the younger you start on a good, healthy tree pruning regimen, the easier it is, the cheaper it is, and the safer the tree is in terms of its context within your own yard. So for light pruning, you generally only need a pair of loppers and a pair of hand pruners. For trees at this size, hand pruners. Really, once you bring this tree home and you get it in the ground, you generally want to let it wait a season before you start pruning. And also, generally speaking, you want to prune in the Houston area, November, December, maybe January, something like that, when you're talking about shade trees. We're going to do these in the bucket for sake of filming, but generally, if these were not in the ground and established, I would wait another year to prune these. But if you can see these lateral branches, how low they are on these two trees here. So when a tree is around structure, it's around your house, it's around your driveway, you know it's going to be around automobiles, it's going to be around pedestrians, it's going to have potential conflicts with running the lawnmower under it, things like that. So eventually we want to get these trees to where the bottom of the tree is probably 8-9 feet, something like that, and you want to make sure that in terms of its ultimate height, you want to make sure it's not coming in conflict with lampposts, with power lines, with any other high structure. This loblolly pine here, good native species, this wants to be something like 100 feet tall, right? We have a type of red oak here called a swamp chestnut red oak. This regularly reaches 50 feet in the Houston area, can be significantly higher than that out in the forest. So when you prune now with a little pair of hand pruners, you're affecting the morphology of this tree in a positive way, and you're saving yourself potentially thousands of dollars in large-scale tree pruning costs that you won't have to do later on. So with that, we'll get to actually how to make the cut on your tree. Okay, as we start to get into our light pruning here, I want to show you the point on the branch at which you should prune. This little line here you see at the union, those are called the branch collar. And in that little piece of tissue there is where this tree is going to produce the hormone that tells it to cut, to cover the wound that you've made when you prune. So on this one here, let's do this one here, this branch here. So if I cut there, I'm nowhere near the branch collar, right? So this is going to try and regrow out here. Come here behind that branch collar, it's going to have a hard time producing the tissue to cover up that wound. So what you want to do is you want to get as close to that collar as you can without going actually into it. And that's going to be the way to do this tree to where it heals the quickest, okay? So right like that, and there you've got a nice nearly flush prune. It's not always perfect. You can see the collar itself is not even. It's a little bit of a U shape. It dips there. So it's as much art as it is science. If I was doing it here, I would come something like that. You can see the collar is still intact, but I don't have a bunch of tissue left over. So that's kind of where on the branch that you want to prune. We've got a couple different trees here. One, we've got this loblolly pine here, and this has an upright morphology to it. Doesn't have, generally speaking, terribly widespreading branches. So we're going to get this up to where on our site here, we want to give 8-9 feet of pedestrian traffic underneath. And so each year I'm going to leg this up a little bit until I get, after 3 or 4 years worth of pruning, a nice bottom height of my canopy. So here, as we look down, keeping in mind our branch collar prune, I'm going to get almost flush there and just take that out. And here you can see the branch collar in there. You can see that's nearly flush without going into the collar. I'm going to do these 3 as well because I know that I don't want this tissue here, these branches here later. So now the growth is going to go into the roots in the ground and upright growing of the tree till we get it to where the height we want it to be. And remembering that when you're planting near built infrastructure in the city, power lines in particular, you know, you need a minimum of 20 feet to be away from these. But again, this tree in 50 years could easily be 80, 90, 100 feet. And so you really need to keep care of these so that it doesn't have weird branches, it doesn't wind load strain, it's got a nice healthy root ball so that it doesn't fall over. Because even though Center Point has 10 and 20 foot aerial and ground easements for caring for these trees, if your tree is 80 feet tall, that just doesn't matter. So you've really got to take care of your tree. So now I've got a nice grouping up here. When trees are this small, I generally don't like to prune more than, say, 15%. I never prune more than 20% of a tree in any given season, unless there's a reason to do it for structural safety, the safety of your property or people, and then you do what you have to do immediately. Now on the oak here, this oak, swamp chestnut oak, it has a much broader growth habit, and so you want to keep this growing up till it gets above, again, the kind of the built structures and the pedestrian areas that you want. And you're going to keep in mind that this is going to have a much broader growth pattern when it's mature. So you need to think about that when you're planting it. So while you may only need to account for maybe 30 feet of width at maturity for the loblolly's crown, on an oak like this, you may get 40 feet. If this were a live oak, you could get 50, 60 feet of width. So you're thinking ahead of time of what this tree wants to do as it matures. And of course, access to sunlight and proximity to other trees and structure will affect the shape of the canopy. But again, I'm going in just next to that root collar. That one I'll just take off by hand. Some of these, when they're still, before the tissue is lignified, you can actually just kind of bend them down to get easier access. They make even smaller pruners for some of this real light stuff. And I'm going to do just to here, and that's probably enough for this season. And then once this is planted in the ground, next year we'll get on this and we'll keep legging this up as it grows up. This is a very young tree. Once it gets in the ground, its roots are established, we'll do a regular winter pruning every year. A tree like this is deciduous. It's best to prune this when the leaves are off, but before it's budded out for the next spring.